The Ghoul Stars are not completely forbidden to the Imperium. Imperial ships have entered them, crusades have fought inside them, and the Death Spectres chapter still watches their borders. But almost no one travels there willingly. Every expedition enters knowing that the region has swallowed fleets, hidden civilizations, and produced horrors that Imperial records struggle to explain. Located at the extreme northeastern edge of the galaxy, the Ghoul Stars are a desolate collection of systems illuminated by cold, dying suns. Many of their worlds appear dead from orbit. Others contain ruins belonging to species that vanished before humanity understood the stars. Communications become unreliable, safe routes disappear, and even experienced navigators can feel that something is wrong long before the enemy reveals itself. The region is filled with threats that do not fit neatly into the Imperium's normal categories. Xenos creatures have emerged from worlds thought to be lifeless. Entire settlements have disappeared without signs of invasion. Ancient structures remain active despite having no visible inhabitants. Some things encountered there appear biological, others mechanical, and some seem to follow rules that Imperial science cannot explain. One of the most infamous species linked to the region was the Scythor Fiends. Imperial forces struggled to understand what they were truly fighting, and the Black Templars eventually launched a major crusade into the Ghoul Stars against them. The campaign proved that the region could be invaded, but it did not make the Ghoul Stars safe. It only showed how much blood could be spent destroying a single threat, while countless others remained hidden. Even the forces stationed nearby do not treat the Ghoul Stars like ordinary Imperial territory. The Death Spectres maintain their vigil beyond the Imperium's normal boundaries, watching to ensure that the region's unnatural inhabitants never spread deeper into the galaxy.
Their presence is less like occupation and more like a guard standing outside a sealed tomb. The Imperium also knows that not everything inside the Ghoul Stars is openly hostile. That may be even worse. Renegades, forgotten human societies, and ancient powers can survive there for centuries without Imperial observation. The Ashen Claws established themselves within the region and continued operating beyond normal Imperial control, proving that the Ghoul Stars can hide entire realms from Terra's authority. What makes the Ghoul Stars terrifying is uncertainty. In the Eye of Terra, the Imperium expects demons. In Tyrannid territory, it expects hunger. Inside the Ghoul Stars, an expedition may not understand what killed it, whether the danger is still present, or whether the silent world beneath its ships is truly empty. The Imperium enters this region only when duty, desperation, or a new threat leaves no alternative. Fleets arrive heavily armed, prepared for war, and often disappear without sending a final message. The Ghoul Stars do not repel humanity with a single unbeatable enemy. They repel it with the knowledge that every dark system may contain something the galaxy was fortunate enough to forget. The Halo Stars form the ancient outer edge of the galaxy, where the light of civilization becomes faint and the darkness beyond the Milky Way begins. They are scattered across an enormous region, with stars so old and distant that many systems have never been properly charted. Imperial maps show only fragments. Entire clusters remain blank, marked with warnings rather than names. The Imperium has sent rogue traders, explorator fleets, missionaries, and military expeditions into the Halo Stars, but many never returned. Some vanished without transmitting a distress signal. Others came back damaged, carrying impossible reports about dead worlds, ancient ruins, and things moving beneath surfaces that should have been lifeless. The region's reputation is so dark that many Imperial citizens believe it is haunted. Travel itself becomes dangerous this far from Terra. Reliable routes are rare, communication is uncertain, and a fleet can spend months or years moving between isolated systems without knowing whether help exists nearby. If a ship suffers engine failure, warp damage, or an attack, rescue may never come. the crew can disappear at the edge of the galaxy and remain unknown forever. The ruins are what keep drawing the Imperium back. Across the Halo stars lie the remains of alien civilizations so ancient that even the Inquisition cannot identify who built them. Some structures appear abandoned, others contain machines that still function after millions of years. Explorers have recovered forbidden artifacts from these worlds, including the so-called Halo devices, objects capable of changing and preserving the humans who bond with them, at a terrible cost. That promise of ancient power is exactly why the region is so dangerous. Rogue traders enter looking for wealth. Tech priests search for lost knowledge. Inquisitors hunt relics before rivals can claim them. Each expedition believes it will be different, that discipline and firepower will protect it from whatever destroyed the last fleet. But the Halo stars do not need a single enemy to defeat the Imperium. Distance, isolation, unknown xenos, unstable routes, and ancient technology are enough. A world can look empty from orbit and still contain something waiting below. A harmless relic can become a death sentence only after it has been carried back aboard the ship. The Imperium does enter the Halo stars, but it does so with fear. These are not worlds humanity controls. They are places humanity has barely touched, filled with evidence that older and more powerful civilizations once ruled beyond the edge of Imperial knowledge. The Halo stars are terrifying because they remind the Imperium that its million worlds are not the whole galaxy. Beyond its borders lie regions where the Emperor's authority means nothing, where no reinforcement fleet is coming, and where mankind may discover that the darkness outside the galaxy has been watching for a very long time. The Eye of Terror is not a normal region of space. It is a colossal wound where real space and the warp overlap, allowing the laws of reality to weaken or disappear entirely. Inside its borders, planets can change shape, time can move unevenly, and demons can walk without being summoned. Imperial fleets approach it only when war leaves them no other choice. The Eye was created during the fall of the ancient Eldari, when the birth of Slaanesh tore open reality. Since then, it has become a refuge for traitor legions, chaos warbands, demon princes, corrupted worlds, and beings that could not survive in ordinary space. For 10,000 years, the enemies of the Imperium have used it as a fortress from which to launch raids and black crusades. Entering the Eye is far more dangerous than crossing enemy territory. Navigation becomes almost impossible because the warp is no longer separated from the physical universe. A ship can be dragged from its route, trapped in storms, or delivered to a destination centuries after it entered. Entire fleets have vanished, only to reappear with crews dead, corrupted, or convinced that only a few hours had passed. The worlds inside are even worse. Some are demon worlds shaped by the will of their rulers. Mountains can move, oceans can become blood, cities can grow like living organisms. The sky may change according to the anger of a chaos god, while the dead continue fighting wars that ended thousands of years earlier. On worlds such as Eidolon, the land itself remains unstable, as rival powers of chaos struggle for control. The Imperium has invaded the Eye during crusades, secret missions, and desperate campaigns, but it cannot truly conquer the region. Every victory is temporary. Destroying one fortress may only reveal another hidden deeper within the storm. Killing a Chaos champion may release something worse from the warp. Even Space Marines and Inquisitors risk corruption there. The Eye does not need to defeat an army through force. It can whisper to its soldiers, show them impossible visions, or offer exactly what they secretly desire. A loyal commander can enter believing his faith is unbreakable, and return as the enemy he was sent to destroy. For centuries, Cadia guarded the safest route near the Eye and blocked many Chaos invasions. When Cadia fell, the balance collapsed, and the war around the former Cadian Gate became even more desperate. The Imperium still fights there,
but every campaign is conducted beside a gateway into madness. The Eye of Terror is a place the Imperium cannot ignore, yet can never enter without paying a terrible price. It is not merely occupied by chaos. It is a part of the galaxy where chaos has already won. The Maelstrom is one of the largest warp storms in the galaxy, a vast region where real space and the Imperium overlap. It lies dangerously close to major Imperial territories, trade routes, and populated sectors, which makes it impossible to simply ignore. Yet entering it means sailing into a place where navigation, distance, and even physical law can become unreliable. Unlike the Eye of Terror, the Maelstrom is not dominated by one single power. It is filled with pirates, renegades, chaos warbands, orc raiders, xenos corsairs, mutants, and isolated civilizations that have survived beyond Imperial control. A fleet can enter expecting one enemy and find several factions fighting over the same system, each willing to attack anything that appears weaker than itself. The greatest danger inside the Maelstrom is Huron Blackheart and the Red Corsairs. Huron was once the chapter master of the Astral Claws, charged with protecting the region. His rebellion triggered the Badab War, one of the largest Space Marine conflicts since the Horus Heresy. After his defeat, he escaped into the Maelstrom and transformed himself from an Imperial commander into one of the galaxy's most powerful Chaos warlords. From within the storm, the Red Corsairs raid the Imperium's vulnerable worlds, steal ships, recruit renegades, and absorb the survivors of broken warbands. Their strength does not come from ruling a stable empire. It comes from controlling a refuge where traitors can disappear, rebuild, and return when the Imperium believes they have been destroyed. Imperial forces have repeatedly tried to contain the Maelstrom. Space Marine chapters were stationed around the surrounding zone to defend nearby systems and commerce from constant attacks. But the region contains more than 1,000 observed star systems and remains plagued by warp storms, unstable routes, and hidden threats. Containment is possible. True control is not. Even reaching a target inside the Maelstrom can become a campaign of its own. Ships can be scattered, isolated, or delivered into the middle of an enemy-held system. Reinforcements may never arrive. A victory over one raider fleet may leave an Imperial force weakened enough for another enemy to finish it. That is why the Imperium enters the Maelstrom only with overwhelming strength or desperate purpose. It is not empty territory waiting to be reclaimed. It is a living refuge for everything Imperial law failed to destroy. The Maelstrom is terrifying because it turns every weakness of the Imperium into an enemy. Its size hides traitors. Its storms protect pirates. Its isolation allows warlords to build power beyond Terra's sight. And every fleet that enters risks becoming another collection of stolen ships flying beneath the banner of Huron Blackheart. The Pariah Nexus is one of the few regions where the Imperium can enter with armies, fleets, and space marines, yet still lose the thing it depends on most, the warp. Hidden within Imperium Nihilus, this expanding zone of silent space was engineered by the Necrons using enormous networks of Blackstone structures. Their purpose is not simply to destroy Imperial forces, it is to weaken the connection between reality and the Immaterium itself. Inside the Nexus, psychic power begins to fail. Astropathic messages disappear into silence. Psychers struggle to use their abilities and may suffer pain, confusion, or complete collapse. The spiritual presence that most living beings possess becomes faint, as if the region is slowly pressing down upon the soul. Ordinary people are affected as well. Human populations can become passive, exhausted, and emotionally empty. Fear disappears, but so does hope. Citizens stop resisting, stop caring, and wait in silence while Necron forces awaken around them. The Imperium may arrive expecting invasion or occupation, only to find entire settlements standing motionless like cattle awaiting slaughter. This phenomenon is known as the stilling. It is terrifying because it does not need to tear bodies apart. It attacks will, emotion, faith, and the psychic energy connecting living minds to the warp. Soldiers may still hold weapons, but without urgency or purpose, they become easier to defeat than corpses.
The Imperium is especially vulnerable here. Its empire depends on astropaths, navigators, sanctioned psychers, and the light of the Astronomicon. Its armies fight through faith in the Emperor. Its ships cross the warp to reach distant worlds. Inside the Pariah Nexus, all of these advantages become weaker or unreliable. The Necrons suffer no such disadvantage.
Their bodies are mechanical, their minds are ancient, and their technology does not depend on the warp. Their tomb complexes remain active beneath silent planets, while Imperial forces advance through corridors filled with energy traps, temporal distortions, and machines that have waited millions of years to awaken. The Indomitus Crusade entered the region because allowing the Nexus to continue expanding could threaten far more than a few isolated systems. If its null field spread far enough, entire sectors could become unreachable, psychically dead, and almost impossible for the Imperium to defend. The region has also become a battlefield between Necron dynasties, including forces loyal to the Silent King and those aligned with Imhotep the Stormlord. That is why the Imperium fears entering the Pariah Nexus.
In most war zones, humanity risks losing soldiers, ships, or worlds. Here, it risks losing the invisible force that allows its civilization to function. The Nexus does not scream like the Eye of Terror. It does not burn like the Maelstrom. It simply grows quieter, colder, and emptier, until the living no longer have enough soul left to resist. The Webway is not a normal place hidden somewhere inside the galaxy. It is an ancient network of tunnels existing between real space and the warp, built long before humanity reached the stars. The Eldari still use its hidden routes to travel enormous distances without exposing themselves fully to the dangers of the Imperium. To the Imperium, however, the Webway is a maze it barely understands. Human forces can enter through damaged portals, captured gates, or temporary tears in reality, but they rarely know where those passages will lead. A corridor that appears stable may open onto a distant planet, a sealed ruin, a forgotten city, or a section that has been abandoned for thousands of years. Maps become unreliable because many routes are broken, hidden, or controlled by species that do not want mankind inside. The greatest danger is becoming trapped. A fleet or strike force may pass through a portal only to discover that the entrance has closed behind it.
Communication with the Imperium can disappear completely. There may be no Astronomicon, no familiar stars, and no path back to real space. The soldiers are left inside an endless labyrinth where direction has almost no meaning. The Webway is also inhabited. Craftworld Eldari, Harlequins, and Drukhari all know paths that humanity cannot see. The Drukhari use the network to launch sudden raids into real space before retreating to Comara, their dark city hidden deep within the maze. An Imperial force entering the Webway may believe it is hunting raiders, only to realize that the enemy controls every escape route. Some passages are even more dangerous because the barrier separating them from the warp has been damaged. When the Webway tears open, madness and impossible phenomena can spill through. Portals may appear without warning, connecting distant places for only a few moments. What looks like a road can become a breach through which demons or other horrors enter. The Emperor once believed the Webway could free humanity from dependence on warp travel. Beneath the Imperial Palace, he attempted to build a human entrance into the network. That dream ended during the Horus Heresy, when the project was breached and the Emperor was forced into a hidden war to stop demons from reaching Terra through the tunnels. That failure still haunts the Imperium. The Webway offers something humanity desperately needs: fast travel without normal warp storms. But every expedition risks entering territory controlled by ancient enemies, crossing routes no human understands, or opening a door that should have remained sealed. The Imperium does enter the Webway when the reward is important enough, but it never enters with confidence. Inside that labyrinth, mankind is not an empire. It is an intruder walking through another civilization's ruins, hoping the owners do not notice before the exit disappears. The Ymga Monolith is not a planet, fortress, or ordinary Necron tomb. It is a colossal black structure located in the Atella system, near territory claimed by the Sortek dynasty. For thousands of years, Imperial scholars knew almost nothing about it. Records concerning the monolith were hidden among the most closely guarded archives on Terra, beside information about other threats the Imperium considered too dangerous for common knowledge. Even during the Great Crusade, the Ymga Monolith was treated as something extraordinary. One of the 2 lost Primarchs is said to have led an expedition to its Black Heart. Why he travelled there, what he discovered, and whether the journey was connected to his later erasure from Imperial history were never recorded. The surviving references offer only enough information to suggest that whatever waited inside was not meant to become public knowledge. The truth revealed in later ages was no less disturbing. The monolith is associated with Necron technology capable of manipulating forces on a scale the Imperium cannot reproduce. Imperial observers detected Necron vessels approaching the structure and emerging duplicated, as though the monolith could create additional warships from those that passed near it. A single fleet entering its influence could become 2, transforming the structure into something far more dangerous than a conventional shipyard. Its power became even clearer after the opening of the Great Rift. When the Cerberus warp storm expanded toward the Ymga Monolith, the structure generated a perfect sphere of order around itself. The surrounding warp disturbance could not penetrate that area, and the storm's advance was halted. The monolith did not merely survive the corruption of reality, it imposed its own rules upon the space around it. Thousands of Sortek vessels later gathered to protect the site as demonic forces emerged from the storm. Their war spread across nearby Imperial territory, turning worlds within a vast radius into battlefields between Necrons and the armies of Khorne. The Imperium was caught beside an ancient machine powerful enough to resist a warp storm and valuable enough for the Necrons to defend with an enormous fleet. That is why Imperial commanders have every reason to avoid the Ymga Monolith. Approaching it risks provoking a dynasty whose technology can alter space, suppress the warp, and possibly reproduce entire warships. Attempting to destroy it may release forces no one understands. Attempting to capture it would require the Imperium to operate machinery created millions of years before humanity existed. The Hadex Anomaly lies at the heart of the Jericho Reach, glowing like a vast red wound in the eastern fringe. It is not simply a violent warp storm, it is a temporal rupture where time can accelerate, reverse, repeat, or lose all connection to the universe outside. Imperial vessels that approach it risk more than destruction. They risk returning to a galaxy that has aged centuries, or becoming trapped inside a single moment forever. Its origin remains uncertain. The anomaly appeared in the early 41st millennium after the destruction of Veronis, a heavily populated Imperial world. Some records connect its birth to vast rituals and the release of warp energy powerful enough to affect psychers across the region. Whatever truly created it, the result was a permanent breach that transformed the Jericho Reach into a battlefield haunted by demons, corrupted worlds, and impossible distortions. The stars surrounding the anomaly are bathed in a sickly red light. Some systems are drawn into its influence and later released, as though the storm itself is breathing. Worlds can vanish from Imperial charts and return generations later. Fleets sent to reinforce a campaign may arrive before the request for help was transmitted, while others emerge long after the war has ended. The greatest danger is that no commander can trust time. Ammunition may decay in storage within hours. Soldiers can cross a battlefield and discover that years passed behind them. A ship may detect its own distress signal before the disaster that caused it. Near the Hadex Anomaly, cause and effect become suggestions rather than laws. Inside the storm exist demon worlds and territories controlled by the servants of chaos. Yet even they do not fully command the anomaly. Warbands use its unstable borders as protection, launching attacks before disappearing into regions where Imperial pursuit becomes almost impossible. The Imperium may know exactly where an enemy escaped and still be unable to follow without sacrificing an entire fleet. One of the darkest legends concerns vessels caught in repeating loops, forced to experience their destruction again and again. Imperial authorities believe some of these trapped ships may contain evidence explaining how the anomaly was formed, but recovering that knowledge would mean entering a region where the same doomed moment can continue without end. After the Great Rift divided the galaxy, the Hadex Anomaly became associated with its eastern extremity, making an already unstable region even more strategically important. The Imperium cannot abandon it because enemies use the Jericho Reach as a path toward vulnerable worlds. But every crusade sent there fights beside a phenomenon capable of rewriting the order of events. The Hadex Anomaly is feared because it does not merely kill those who enter. It can erase their future, imprison their past, and trap them in a war that never reaches its final moment.